The cargo ship descended through the thick clouds of Kepler 442b, its hull scarred from years of interstellar travel. Inside the cramped holding bay, Taeyang pressed his face against the small window, watching the alien world grow larger below. He was 19 years old, and this was his third assignment in 2 years. The Galactic Council kept humans moving, never letting them settle, never letting them feel at home. Beside him, 40 other humans sat in silence. Most were older, their faces hollow and tired. They had learned not to complain, not to resist. The overseers punished resistance with death, and death was always public. The ship landed with a heavy thud. The bay doors opened and harsh purple light flooded in. Taeyang squinted as armed guards entered. They were Valthorians, tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. Each arm held a weapon. "Move," one of them barked in rough human language. "You work in the mines now. You dig, you load, you obey. Nothing else." The humans shuffled out into the landing zone. Taeyang had seen places like this before. Prefabricated buildings surrounded by high walls. Guard towers at every corner. No trees, no grass, nothing living except the workers and their masters. The colony stretched for miles, all of it built by human hands, none of it for human use. A Valthorian commander stood on a platform overlooking the new arrivals. His name was Kress, and everyone knew him. He had a reputation for cruelty that spread across 3 star systems. "Welcome to Kepler 442b, Kress announced, his voice amplified across the compound. "You are here because the Galactic Council has given your species purpose. Before we found you, humans were alone, primitive, killing each other over dirt and water. We saved you. We gave you meaning." Taeyang clenched his fists but kept his head down. Around him, the other humans stood motionless. "You will work 12 hours each day," Kress continued. "You will meet your quotas. You will not complain. Any human found disobeying will face correction. Any human found resisting will face execution. This is the natural order. Young species serve. Elder species guide. One day, perhaps, your descendants will be elevated. But not you. Not in your lifetime." The speech ended. Guards separated the humans into work groups. Taeyang found himself assigned to Mineshaft 7, deep underground where the colony extracted rare minerals for alien technology. The work was dangerous. Cave-ins happened weekly. Humans died regularly, and the council simply shipped in more. That first night, exhausted and covered in mineral dust, Taeyang lay on his bunk in the cramped barracks. Around him, dozens of other workers tried to sleep. Some whispered prayers. Others wept quietly. A few sat in silence, staring at nothing. An older woman in the bunk below him spoke softly. "First time off Earth?" "No," Taeyang replied. "Third assignment, and then you know how it is. Keep your head down. Do your work. Maybe you survive. Is that all we do? Survive?" The woman was quiet for a moment. "What else is there?" Taeyang did not answer. He closed his eyes, but sleep would not come. 3 weeks passed. Taeyang fell into the rhythm of mine work. Wake before dawn, eat protein paste, descend into darkness, swing the extraction tools, fill the carts, return to surface, sleep, repeat. His hands bled. His back ached. His lungs burned from breathing mineral dust. Then came the execution. It happened in the central square during the evening meal. All workers were required to attend. Guards forced everyone into neat rows facing a platform. On that platform stood a human man, maybe 30 years old, his hands bound behind his back. Kress stood beside him, smiling. "This human violated protocol," Kress announced. "He was found with a communication device. He attempted to contact other colonies. He tried to organize resistance." The bound man lifted his head. His face was bruised, one eye swollen shut, but he looked at his fellow humans with defiance. "Do not mourn for me," the man said, his voice hoarse but strong. "Mourn for yourselves if you accept this. We are human. We built cities. We touched the stars. We are not slaves." Kress struck him across the face. "You are whatever we say you are." The Valthorian commander drew his weapon, a plasma pistol that hummed with deadly energy. He pressed it against the back of the man's head. "Let this be a lesson," Kress said. "Resistance is proof you are not yet civilized." The shot echoed across the compound. The man fell forward, dead before he hit the platform. Around Taeyang, humans flinched but remained silent. No one screamed. No one moved. They had learned. Guards dragged the body away. The workers were dismissed back to their barracks. That night, Taeyang could not eat. He sat on his bunk, staring at his hands. They were young hands, strong hands. Hands that should have been building things, creating things, living a real life. Instead, they dug in alien dirt for alien masters. His data pad, a simple device used for work schedules, suddenly flickered. A message appeared, text only, no sender identification. The man who died today was named Minho. He was brave. He was right. We are human. We are not slaves. If you believe this, if you want to fight, press your thumb to the screen for 3 seconds. Taiyang read the message twice. His heart pounded. This was a test, surely. The overseers trying to identify more resistors to execute. Or maybe it was real. He thought of Minho's last words. He thought of 3 years working in mines and factories and construction sites, always for others, never for himself. He thought of Earth, the planet he barely remembered, now controlled entirely by the Council. Taiyang pressed his thumb to the screen and held it there. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The message deleted itself. Nothing happened. He waited, expecting guards to burst through the door. Instead, 3 hours later, another message appeared. Welcome to the reckoning. Stay alert. Stay alive. Change is coming. Taiyang deleted the message and lay back on his bunk. For the first time in 3 years, something stirred in his chest. Not hope exactly, but something close to it. Purpose, perhaps. Direction. Far above the colony in the asteroid belt beyond the planet's moons, a ship hung in darkness. It was small, civilian class with fake registration codes and a hull that absorbed sensor scans. Inside, Captain Hyunwoo studied intelligence reports from 40 different star systems. The reports were all the same. Humans worked, humans died, humans served, but now something new. Intercepted Council communications revealed a program called Cultural Restructuring. The details were horrifying. Complete memory erasure of the current human generation, personality wipes, implanted compliance conditioning, creating perfect slaves who would not even remember they had once been free. The program would begin in 6 months. Hyunwoo looked at his crew, 8 men and women who had escaped servitude through luck and violence. They were all that remained of Earth's military, scattered and hiding, waging a secret war the Council did not yet take seriously. 6 months, Hyunwoo said quietly. In 6 months, humanity ends. Not our bodies, our minds, our memories, everything that makes us human. Then we have 6 months to stop it, replied Mirai, the ship's scientist and former xenobiology researcher. She had spent 5 years in Council laboratories before escaping. She knew their technology better than anyone. We are 8 people, another crew member said. How do we fight an empire? Hyunwoo smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of someone who had nothing left to lose. We are not 8 people, he said. We are thousands. Across 50 systems, in every colony and station, there are humans who are ready. Humans who remember freedom. Humans who refuse to kneel. The reckoning has been preparing for this moment since the day the Council put chains on us. He pulled up a star map, showing the galaxy with markers on every human population. Thousands of markers, millions of humans. In 6 months they want to erase us, Hyunwoo continued. But in 6 months they're going to learn something about humanity. We do not go quietly. We do not surrender. And when you push us to extinction, we do not break. He looked at each crew member in turn. We fight back. The news spread like fire through dry grass. From colony to colony, station to station, mine to factory, the secret networks carried the message. Cultural restructuring was real. The Council planned to erase human memory, human identity, human history. In 6 months, everyone who remembered Earth as a free world would cease to exist. Ambassador Jiwon stood in the Council chambers, a massive hall carved from a single asteroid and decorated with the symbols of 12 elder species. She was the official voice of humanity, though that voice was rarely heard and never respected. Today she demanded to be recognized. The human delegation requests to speak, Jiwon said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. The Council members lounged in their elevated seats, looking down at her with expressions ranging from boredom to contempt. The Valthorian representative, a female named Thessa, waved one of her 4 hands dismissively. The human may speak briefly, Thessa said. We have important matters to discuss. Jiwon stepped forward, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. We have received reports about a program called Cultural Restructuring. We demand information about this program and its purpose. The Council members exchanged glances. Several smiled. There is no such program, Thessa replied. Your people spread rumors and lies to justify their constant resistance to proper guidance. I have seen the communications, Jiwan said. I have seen the facility construction orders. I have seen the memory erasure technology requisitions. Then you have seen classified council business that does not concern your species, another council member said. This one was Torvian, a species that resembled large insects. You overstep your bounds, human. My bounds? Jiwan's voice rose despite her attempt at control. You speak of erasing the minds of billions of people, and you say this does not concern us? Thessa stood from her seat. This discussion is over. The human delegation is dismissed. Further inquiry into council security matters will be considered espionage and punished accordingly. Jiwan wanted to scream, to rage, to make them understand. Instead, she bowed her head and left the chamber. The council had made its position clear. They would not even acknowledge the truth. But Jiwan had not come to negotiate. She had come to confirm. Now she knew for certain. The program was real, and the council would never stop it through peaceful means. She returned to her small office in the diplomatic sector and activated a secure communication line, one the council did not know existed. A face appeared on the screen, weathered and tired but determined. Captain Hyunwoo, Jiwan said. They confirmed it through denial. The program is real and they have accelerated the timeline. How long? Hyunwoo asked. 4 months now, maybe less. Hyunwoo nodded slowly. Then we move now. Operation Prometheus begins tonight. Across the galaxy on a council research station orbiting a dead star, Dr. Mirai worked in a laboratory filled with alien technology. She wore the gray uniform of a research assistant, her identification badge marking her as property of the council's scientific directorate. For 5 years, she had played this role, pretending to be compliant while secretly copying files and studying the very systems designed to enslave her species. Tonight she worked late, long after the alien researchers had gone to their quarters. Her fingers moved quickly across holographic displays, accessing restricted databases. She had been planning this moment for months, waiting for the right opportunity. The cultural restructuring program files were heavily encrypted, but Mirai had time and motivation. She bypassed 7 security protocols, copied terabytes of data, and then went deeper. She found something else in the restricted archives, something that made her blood run cold. Records of 3 extinct civilizations, species that had resisted the council decades ago. The Etherians, the Krell, the Margonis. All of them young species, all of them enslaved, all of them erased from existence when they fought back. And the weapon used to destroy them. The Star Hammer, a device that could tear apart planets, converting matter directly to energy. 3 worlds had been annihilated. Billions of beings exterminated, entire cultures reduced to ash and radiation. Mirai copied everything. Then she activated a program she had hidden in the station's communication systems months ago. It would broadcast her findings to every inhabited system in the galaxy, bypassing council censorship, reaching every species whether they wanted to hear it or not. She recorded a simple message to accompany the data. My name is Dr. Mirai, I am human. For 5 years I have worked in council research facilities and I have seen things that would horrify any being with a conscience. The Galactic Council has enslaved humanity through deception and force. They plan to erase our memories and turn us into mindless servants. But this is not new. They have done this before to other species. When those species resisted, the Council destroyed their entire civilizations using a weapon called the Star Hammer. She paused, looking directly into the camera. I am releasing all evidence of these crimes. Every species in the galaxy will see what the Council truly is. They are not wise elders. They are not benevolent guides. They are slavers and murderers who have built an empire on the suffering of others. Mirai took a breath. Humanity has been patient. We have been peaceful. We accepted your rule because we believed in a greater galactic community. But you mistook our patience for weakness. You mistook our peace for cowardice. You are about to learn what humanity actually is. She ended the recording and initiated the broadcast. Within seconds, the data began transmitting to relay stations across known space. Within minutes, it would reach billions of beings on thousands of worlds. Alarms began blaring throughout the research station. Guards rushed toward her laboratory. Mirai smiled and pressed one more button. Explosive charges she had planted over the course of months detonated throughout the station's data core, ensuring the Council could not stop the transmission. The laboratory door burst open. 3 guards entered, weapons raised. "You are under arrest for espionage and sabotage," one of them said. Mirai raised her hands in surrender. "I know, but it does not matter anymore. The truth is out." On Kepler 442b, Taeyang was working the night shift in Mineshaft 7 when every screen in the colony suddenly activated. The broadcast interrupted all regular programming. He stopped working along with hundreds of other humans and watched Mirai's message play across the screens. They saw the evidence: the slavery contracts, the execution records, the plans for cultural restructuring, the images of 3 dead worlds, lifeless rocks floating in space where civilizations had once thrived. Silence filled the mine. Then someone started to cry. Then someone else began to shout in anger. Within moments, the entire mine was in chaos. Guards rushed in, trying to restore order. But the humans were past the point of control. They had seen the truth. They knew the council planned to erase them. They had nothing left to lose. Taeyang felt something break inside him, some final barrier between obedience and rage. He looked at the guard nearest him, a Valthorian with a shock weapon, and he felt no fear. Only fury. The riot began in Mineshaft 7 and spread through the colony within the hour. Humans fought with mining tools and bare hands against armed guards. Many died, but many more kept fighting. The guards trained to suppress occasional resistance were unprepared for open rebellion. In orbit above dozens of colony worlds, similar uprisings erupted. Humans had waited for a signal, a moment when fighting seemed less hopeless than submission. Mirai's broadcast was that signal. In the council chambers, emergency sessions convened. The 12 elder species gathered, their usual calm shattered by the sudden chaos erupting across their empire. "How many colonies are in rebellion?" Thessa demanded. 47 and counting, an aide reported. "The human population is rioting everywhere the broadcast was received. Shut down their communications. Deploy peacekeeping forces. Restore order." "It is not that simple," the aide continued. "The humans are not just rioting. They are coordinating. This is organized. They have been planning this." Thessa felt something she had not experienced in decades: fear. The humans were supposed to be weak, scattered, leaderless. Instead, they had built a network under the council's own watch. "Deploy the fleet," she ordered. "Send them to Earth. If we control the homeworld, we control the species." "What about the cultural restructuring program?" another council member asked. "Accelerate it. We implement immediately on Earth. The other colonies will surrender once their homeworld is pacified and processed." The order went out. The council fleet, thousands of warships representing the combined military might of 12 species, began moving toward Earth. It was the largest military deployment in a generation. They expected an easy victory. Earth had minimal defenses, mostly civilian infrastructure. The humans had been disarmed during their integration into the council. They could not possibly resist a proper military assault. But Captain Hyunwoo, watching the fleet's movement from his hidden base in the asteroid belt, knew something the council had forgotten. Humans were very good at hiding things. "All cells, this is Prometheus Command," Hyunwoo broadcast on the Resistance Network. "The council is moving on Earth. Begin Operation Hellfire. Show them what we have been building." Across 50 star systems, hidden resistance cells emerged from the shadows. The council fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, a wall of steel and weapons that stretched across space like a metal storm. 5,000 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to level a city. Commander Kress stood on the bridge of the flagship, looking at the blue planet hanging in the darkness ahead. "No resistance detected," his tactical officer reported. "Earth's orbital space appears empty. No defense platforms, no military vessels, nothing." Kress allowed himself a smile. The humans had scattered their strength across the colonies, leaving their homeworld vulnerable. It was a mistake born of desperation, and it would cost them everything. "Begin bombardment operations," Kress ordered. "Target population centers. I want this over quickly." The fleet moved forward, weapons charging, targeting systems locking onto major cities. Beijing, New York, London, Lagos, Mumbai, São Paulo. Billions of humans lived below, unaware their world was about to burn. Then Earth's defenses activated. What appeared to be orbital debris suddenly came to life. Hundreds of platforms, disguised as space junk and derelict satellites, revealed themselves as weapon systems. Railguns, missile batteries, energy weapons, all jury-rigged from stolen council technology and human innovation. The first volley caught the council fleet completely by surprise. Dozens of ships exploded before they could raise shields. Hundreds more took damage. Evasive maneuvers. Kress shouted, "Return fire!" Where did those platforms come from? Unknown, Commander. They were not there on previous scans. Then your scans were wrong. Destroy them! The battle for Earth began in earnest. The Council fleet had overwhelming numbers and superior technology. But the human defenses had surprise and desperation. The platforms fired again and again, each shot carefully aimed at vulnerable points in Council ships. The humans had studied these vessels for years, knew their weaknesses, exploited every flaw. But it was not enough. For every Council ship destroyed, 10 more pressed forward. The orbital platforms began to fall, blasted apart by concentrated fire. The Council fleet pushed through the defensive line and began bombing Earth's surface. The first missiles struck Shanghai. The entire city vanished in a flash of superheated plasma. 12 million people died in seconds. More missiles fell on other cities. Jakarta, Buenos Aires, Moscow. The death toll climbed into the hundreds of millions within the first hour. On the surface, in underground bunkers built in secret over decades, humans watched their world die. They had known this moment might come. They had prepared as best they could. But no amount of preparation could soften the agony of watching cities burn. Captain Hyun-woo received the casualty reports in his command ship, still hidden in the asteroid belt. His hands clenched so hard his knuckles turned white. Around him his crew wept openly. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "all resistance cells are reporting ready. They are waiting for your order." Hyun-woo looked at the tactical display. Earth was dying, but Earth was not the only battlefield. Across 50 star systems, thousands of humans waited in hiding, ready to strike. The Council had concentrated their forces at Earth, leaving their supply lines and infrastructure vulnerable. "All cells," Hyun-woo said into the communications array. "Execute Operation Prometheus. Make them pay for every human life. Make them regret they ever found us." On Kepler 442b, Taeyang crouched in the darkness outside the colony's power station with 15 other resistance fighters. They had been training for this moment for months, learning to use weapons stolen from careless guards, memorizing the layout of every critical facility. The broadcast had shown them the truth. The execution of Minho had shown them the cost of submission. Now, watching reports of Earth burning, they understood there was nothing left to lose. "The guards just changed shift," whispered Borum, a woman who had worked in the colony's communications center before joining the resistance. "We have maybe 10 minutes before the next patrol." Taeyang nodded. "Everyone knows their jobs. We take the power station, we cut the colony's main supply, and we move to the secondary targets. No hesitation. They showed us no mercy. We show them none." They moved as one, rushing the power station's entrance. The 2 guards on duty barely had time to react before Taeyang and his team overwhelmed them. It was brutal, quick, and necessary. The guards died without firing a shot. Inside the power station, resistance fighters placed explosive charges on the main generators. They had learned how to make these bombs from stolen materials. Following instructions passed through the resistance network. "Charges set," Taeyang reported. "Everyone out." They evacuated the building and ran for cover. The explosion lit up the night sky and the entire colony went dark. Emergency lights flickered on in some buildings, but the main power grid was destroyed. Without power, the defense systems were down. The landing pads could not function. The colony was blind and vulnerable. Similar attacks happened simultaneously across Kepler 442b and 46 other colony worlds. Power stations, communication relays, supply depots, water treatment facilities. The humans did not attack military targets directly. They attacked infrastructure, crippling the colonies from within. On station after station, in shipyard after shipyard, human workers who had been treated as slaves suddenly revealed themselves as saboteurs. Ships exploded in dock. Fuel reserves ignited. Computer systems crashed with viruses that had been hidden in their code for years. The galactic economy, built on the backs of human labor, began to collapse. Commander Kress received the reports with growing horror. In the span of 6 hours, the Council had lost control of 60% of their colonial infrastructure. Production had stopped. Supply lines were cut. Trillions of credits and resources were burning or floating in space as debris. "How is this possible?" Kress demanded. "They are slaves.
They are primitive.
How did they coordinate all of this? No one on his bridge had an answer. Sir, his tactical officer said, we are receiving distress calls from the Valthor system. A human fleet has attacked the shipyards. What fleet? The humans have no fleet. Apparently they do now, sir. Kress pulled up the tactical display. His blood ran cold. Emerging from hiding places throughout the galaxy, human ships appeared on sensors. Not military vessels, but converted civilian craft. Mining ships, cargo haulers, all of them armed with improvised weapons and piloted by humans who had nothing left to lose. They were not fighting like the Council fought. They were not trying to win battles through superior firepower and tactics. They were using suicide runs, ramming maneuvers, boarding actions. They fought like cornered animals. And cornered animals were the most dangerous. On the planet Valthor Prime, homeworld of Kress's species, panic spread through the population. The humans were coming. The slaves were rebelling. The natural order was shattering. Dr. Mirai, imprisoned on the research station, heard the chaos through her cell walls. Guards ran past, shouting orders. Alarms blared constantly. Something was happening, something big. Her cell door suddenly exploded inward. Through the smoke, armed humans in makeshift armor stormed in. Dr. Mirai? One of them asked. Yes. We are here to extract you. The captain wants you on the flagship. Captain Hyunwoo? The same. Can you walk? Mirai stood on shaking legs. I can run if I have to. Good. Because we need to move fast. They fought their way through the station, encountering minimal resistance. Most of the guards had fled to the evacuation ships. The humans planted charges throughout the facility as they went, ensuring nothing would remain that could be used against them. Outside, a human ship waited, its hull scarred and patched, but its weapons hot and ready. Mirai boarded, and the ship immediately accelerated away from the station. Behind them, the research facility exploded into fragments. Welcome aboard the Defiant, the ship's captain said. We are taking you to meet Captain Hyunwoo. He says you have information about a council weapon. The Star Hammer, Mirai confirmed. I found the records. I know where it is. The captain smiled grimly. Then we are going to take it. The Star Hammer facility was located in a dead system, orbiting a collapsed star that gave off radiation that scrambled sensors. It was the perfect hiding place for the Council's most terrible weapon. 3 species had been erased by this device. Their homeworlds converted to expanding clouds of ionized gas. Now, Captain Hyunwoo led a fleet of 70 human ships toward that facility. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched by the Council defenses. None of that mattered anymore. All ships, Hyunwoo broadcast. Earth is burning. Billions of our people are dead. The Council thinks this will break us. They are wrong. They have given us nothing left to lose, and that makes us the most dangerous force in this galaxy. We are going to take their ultimate weapon, and we are going to show them the price of genocide. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately came under fire from the Star Hammer's defensive platforms. Ships exploded. Hundreds died in the first moments, but the humans kept coming, pressing forward through the storm of fire. On the facility, Commander Kress had been recalled from Earth to organize the defense. He could not believe the humans would be foolish enough to attack here, but here they were, throwing themselves at his defenses with suicidal determination. Hold the line, Kress ordered. Do not let them reach the Star Hammer. The galaxy held its breath. News of humanity's capture of the Star Hammer spread across every inhabited world within hours. The weapon that had destroyed 3 civilizations, the ultimate guarantee of Council power, now belonged to the species they had tried to enslave. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session on a backup station, their primary chambers destroyed in the early days of the human uprising. The 12 elder species sat in their seats, but the confidence and superiority they had displayed for centuries was gone. Now they looked at each other with fear and uncertainty. We must negotiate, said Thessa, the Valthorian representative. The humans have the Star Hammer. If they use it, entire worlds could die. They would not dare, another council member said, though his voice carried no conviction. Using such a weapon would prove they are the savages we always claimed them to be. They have already proven they will do anything to survive, Thessa replied. We underestimated them at every turn. We thought them weak. We thought them scattered. We thought them broken. We were wrong about everything. An aide entered the chamber, his face pale. The humans are broadcasting. They demand you watch. The holographic display activated, showing Captain Hyunwoo standing in the Starhammer's control room. Around him stood other humans, all of them armed. All of them looking at the camera with expressions of cold determination. Members of the Galactic Council, Hyunwoo began. You know who I am. You know what we have taken from you. Now you will hear our terms. He gestured to someone off camera. Dr. Mirai stepped into view, holding a data pad. The cultural restructuring program is cancelled immediately, Mirai said. All documentation and technology related to memory erasure will be destroyed. Any council member involved in its development will stand trial, Hyunwoo continued. The Galactic Council will be dissolved. The system of elder species ruling over younger species ends now. Every enslaved species, not just humans, will be freed. All labor contracts are void. All control mechanisms removed. That is impossible, Thessa whispered in the council chamber. The entire galactic economy depends on the current structure. On the broadcast, Hyunwoo was not finished. Council leadership will face trial for crimes against sapient life. You will answer for the species you have erased, the billions you have enslaved, the cultures you have destroyed. And Earth will hold the Starhammer as guarantee that you never do this again. A third human stepped into view. It was Taeyang, still wearing battle armor stained with blood and burn marks. He looked directly into the camera. You thought we would submit. You thought we would accept chains. You thought we were young and weak and easy to control. You were wrong. Humanity remembers every death, every humiliation, every moment of suffering you inflicted on us. We will have justice or we will have revenge. The choice is yours. The broadcast ended. In the council chamber, silence stretched for a long moment. Then Thessa stood. We cannot accept these terms. Our entire civilization is built on the current order. Without it, everything collapses. Then we rebuild, another council member said quietly. It was an old Torvian, one of the few who had opposed the cultural restructuring program from the beginning. We rebuild without slavery. We rebuild without conquered species serving us. We rebuild as equals. That is madness, Thessa said. What is mad is thinking we can continue as before, the Torvian replied. The humans have shown us the cost of oppression. They nearly destroyed our entire infrastructure in a matter of days. They captured the Starhammer when we thought it impossible. They did all this while we had every advantage. Imagine what they could do if we continued to resist. We still have the fleet, Thessa argued. Thousands of warships. We can retake the Starhammer facility. At what cost? The Torvian asked. How many council worlds burn while we throw ships at a fortified position? How many more humans join their resistance? How many other enslaved species see the humans succeed and rise up themselves? Thessa had no answer. The council sent their response 6 hours later. They rejected every human demand. They offered a compromise, a gradual transition to more humane treatment of younger species. Reforms implemented over decades, oversight committees to prevent abuses. Captain Hyunwoo read their response with Mirai and Taeyang standing beside him. The three of them had become the face of human resistance, each representing a different path that led to this moment. They think we will accept delays and promises, Taeyang said bitterly. They think we will wait for them to reform on their own schedule while more humans die. They have never had to face consequences before, Mirai observed. For centuries, they were the ultimate power. They cannot imagine a galaxy where they are not in control. Hyunwoo looked at the Starhammer's control interface. One command, one activation sequence, and he could erase an entire world. The power was terrifying. He understood now why the Council had hidden this weapon away. Why they only used it on species that had no choice but to be destroyed. Power like this corrupted. It made the wielder believe they had the right to decide who lived and who died. It turned beings into gods, and gods rarely answered to anyone. We have a decision to make, Hyunwoo said quietly. We can use this weapon and become what we fought against. We can destroy council worlds until they submit, killing billions of innocent beings to punish their leaders. Or we can show restraint and hope it is enough. Restraint did not save Earth, Taeyang said. Billions of our people are dead because we showed patience. Because we tried to negotiate. Because we believed in their better nature. They have no better nature. They only understand force. I know, Hyunwoo said. But there is a difference between force and genocide. We can demonstrate our willingness to use this weapon without killing billions. How? Mirai asked. Hyunwoo pulled up the star charts showing council territory. We give them one more chance. One final demonstration that we are serious. And then if they still refuse, we make the choice we pray we never have to make. He opened a channel to every major world in Council space. This is Captain Hyunwoo of Earth. The Galactic Council has rejected our terms. They believe we will not use the Starhammer. They believe we are bluffing. They are wrong. In 1 hour, we will demonstrate our capability. We will target the Council's central administrative station, the hub where your leaders have gathered to decide our fate. Consider this a mercy. We could target your homeworlds. We could kill billions. Instead, we will kill thousands. Your leaders, your decision-makers, those who built their power on slavery and genocide. This is humanity's justice. You have 1 hour to evacuate any civilians from the station. We suggest you take us seriously. He closed the channel and set the countdown. Are you certain about this? Mirai asked. No, Hyunwoo admitted, but I am certain that half measures will not work. They need to understand we are willing to go all the way. The hour passed in terrible silence. Across the galaxy, beings watched their displays, wondering if the humans would really do it. Some believed it was still a bluff. Others scrambled to evacuate the Council station. The station was a massive orbital complex, a city in space that had served as the center of galactic government for 3,000 years. 20,000 beings lived and worked there. Most were council members, administrators, and support staff. Some were civilians, families of the leadership, teachers and merchants and artisans. When the countdown reached 0, the Starhammer activated. The weapon drew energy from the collapsed star it orbited, channeling unimaginable power into a focused beam that crossed light years in moments. The beam struck the Council station dead center. For an instant, the station was still there, intact and whole. Then it began to come apart at the atomic level. Matter converted directly to energy in a chain reaction that expanded outward in a perfect sphere. Metal, stone, flesh, all of it became light and heat. 10 seconds later, the Council station no longer existed. 20,000 beings had become scattered atoms, their final moments too brief to allow understanding of what had happened. Across the galaxy, leaders of the 12 elder species watched the destruction in shock. The humans had done it. They had actually used the weapon. The impossible had become real. Taeyang stared at the sensor display showing the expanding debris field. We killed them. We really killed them. Yes, Hyunwoo said quietly. 20,000 lives. That is the price of their arrogance. That is the cost of their refusal to change. Do you regret it? Mirai asked. Hyunwoo was silent for a moment. I regret that it was necessary, but I do not regret doing what had to be done to save our species. He opened channels to every council homeworld simultaneously. You have seen what we can do. You have seen we are not bluffing. You have 48 hours to accept our terms. The council will dissolve. All enslaved species will be freed. Your leaders will face trial. If you refuse, we will begin targeting homeworlds. We will start with Valthor Prime. Your choice. Your time is running out on Valthor Prime. Panic spread through the population. Their military leadership was dead, destroyed with the council station. Their fleets were scattered, many ships damaged or destroyed in the human uprising. They had no defense against the Starhammer. Within 6 hours, the Valthorian government surrendered unconditionally. Other council species followed quickly. The Torvians accepted terms within 12 hours. 3 months after the war ended, the first trials began on a neutral world chosen specifically because no species had historical claims to it. The planet had been terraformed centuries ago but never colonized, making it perfect for the proceedings that would determine the fate of former council leadership. Dr. Mirai stood in the prosecution chambers, reviewing files that documented decades of crimes. She had volunteered for this role, believing that truth and evidence were the foundations of real justice. Around her, legal experts from 20 different species worked to build cases against those who had built their power on slavery and genocide. The trials were broadcast across the galaxy. Every species could watch as their former masters answered for their actions. Commander Kress was among the first to face judgment. He sat in the defendant's chair, stripped of rank and uniform, looking smaller than he had when he stood above human workers issuing orders. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Execution orders bearing his signature, video recordings of him overseeing punishments, testimony from survivors who remembered his cruelty. Captain Hyunwoo attended the trial but did not testify. He sat in the observation section, watching as Mirai presented the case with clinical precision. She did not rage or condemn. She simply showed what Kress had done and let the facts speak for themselves. When it was his turn to speak, Kress showed no remorse. "I followed the laws of the council," he said. "I maintained order as I was trained to do. You put me on trial for doing my duty." "Your duty was to oppress and murder," Mireille replied calmly. "The council's laws were unjust. Following unjust laws does not absolve you of responsibility for your actions." The trial lasted 3 days. The verdict was unanimous, guilty on all counts. The sentence sparked debate throughout human space. Some wanted execution. Others wanted imprisonment. The final decision surprised many. Kress was sentenced to 20 years of labor in the mines of Kepler 442b, the same colony where he had overseen human slaves. He would experience firsthand the conditions he had inflicted on others. He would dig in the same tunnels where humans had died under his command. He would know what it meant to have no freedom, no dignity, only endless work under the eyes of overseers. "This is not justice," Kress said when the sentence was read. "This is revenge." "No," Taeyang said from the prosecution table. He had testified earlier, describing the execution of Minho and the daily horrors of colony life. "Revenge would be killing you the way you killed so many humans. This is justice. You will live. You will work. You will understand what you did." Similar trials proceeded for months. Hundreds of council officials faced judgment. Some were imprisoned. Others were exiled to remote worlds. A few, those who had shown mercy or tried to reform the system from within, received lighter sentences or were released with conditions. Earth itself began the slow process of recovery. The orbital bombardment had killed 3 billion people and left major cities in ruins. But humans were resilient. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that spanned continents. They would survive this too. Ambassador Jiwon, who had secretly aided the resistance while maintaining her diplomatic cover, was offered leadership of the reconstruction effort. She accepted, knowing the work would take decades. Every day brought new challenges: food distribution, medical care, rebuilding infrastructure, helping survivors cope with trauma. But there was also hope. With the council dissolved, humans could rebuild on their own terms. They could design their cities as they wished. They could choose their own future. The question of what to do with the Star Hammer dominated discussions for months. The weapon sat in its facility, guarded by rotating crews from multiple species. No one wanted it used again. No one wanted it destroyed either, fearing some future tyrant would simply build another. Captain Hyunwoo proposed a solution during a meeting of the newly formed Galactic Assembly, a democratic body that replaced the Council. Every species had equal representation, and decisions required broad consensus rather than dictates from elder species. "The Star Hammer will remain in the neutral system," Hyunwoo said, "but its activation will require unanimous approval from all assembly members. No single species, not even humanity, can use it alone. It becomes a shared responsibility, a guarantee of peace that depends on cooperation." The proposal generated fierce debate. Some species feared giving humanity any control over such a weapon. Others argued that humanity had earned the right through their sacrifice. Taeyang, who now represented Earth in the assembly, addressed the concerns directly. "We do not want this weapon. We wish it had never been built. But it exists and we cannot pretend otherwise. Better to make it a tool of collective security than to let it remain a secret in the hands of those who would use it for oppression." After weeks of negotiation, the assembly voted to accept Hyunwoo's proposal. The Star Hammer would remain as it was, guarded by joint forces, usable only if every species agreed. It was an imperfect solution, but perhaps that was fitting. Perfect solutions rarely existed in a galaxy full of different beings with different needs. Dr. Mireille published her complete research a year after the war ended. The book, titled The Price of Freedom, documented everything: the slavery systems, the cultural restructuring program, the extinct species destroyed by the Star Hammer, the human uprising and its costs, the trials and their outcomes. She ended the book with a question: was it worth it? Her answer: freedom is always worth fighting for. 3 billion humans died to end a system that had enslaved billions more across centuries. The question is not whether freedom is worth the cost. The question is whether we can maintain it without becoming oppressors ourselves. The book became required reading in schools across dozens of worlds. Younger generations who had not lived through the war needed to understand what had happened and why. 5 years after the war, Taiyang returned to Kepler 442b as part of an official delegation. The colony had changed dramatically. The mines still operated, but now they were worked by free laborers earning fair wages. The guard towers were gone. The walls had been torn down. Humans lived side by side with Valthorians and Torvians and members of other species, all of them equal under the new colonial charter. He visited Mineshaft 7, where he had worked as a slave. The entrance had been converted into a memorial. Names of those who died in the mines were carved into stone walls. Thousands of names. Thousands of lives lost to greed and cruelty. Taiyang placed his hand on the wall. Finding the name he sought, Minho. The man executed for resistance, whose death had sparked something in Taiyang that led him to join the fight. "We won," Taiyang said quietly to the memorial. "You were right. We are not slaves. We never were." An older Valthorian woman approached the memorial, moving slowly with the aid of a walking stick. She placed flowers at the base of the wall. "I lost my son in the war," she said in accented human language. "He was a guard here. He believed in the Council's lies about natural order and guidance. He died fighting against the human uprising." Taiyang turned to look at her, unsure how to respond. "I am not here seeking forgiveness," she continued. "I am here because my son was wrong, and I was wrong for not teaching him better. These names on the wall are proof of that. I come here to remember that freedom is not the right of some species over others. It is the right of all beings." She placed her hand on the memorial wall next to Taiyang's. "We cannot undo the past," she said, "but perhaps we can build a better future." Taiyang nodded slowly. "Perhaps we can." 10 years after the war, Captain Hyunwoo stood in the control room of the Starhammer facility. He was older now, his hair gray, his face lined with the weight of command. He had been offered retirement many times, but always refused. Someone who understood the weapon's terrible power needed to guard it, and he had given the order to use it once. That gave him the responsibility to ensure it was never used again. A young human officer, no more than 20 years old, reported for her shift. She had been born just before the war, too young to remember Earth before the bombardment, too young to have known the Council's oppression firsthand. "Sir, all systems normal," she reported. "No threats detected." "Good," Hyunwoo said. "What is your name, officer?" "Sora, sir." "Tell me, Sora, why did you volunteer for this duty?" "Most young people want nothing to do with weapons of mass destruction." Sora considered the question. "My parents died in the bombardment of Mumbai. I never knew them. I was raised by survivors who remembered what it was like to be enslaved. They taught me that freedom is not free. Someone has to stand watch to protect it. And you think watching over a planet-killing weapon is protecting freedom? I think making sure this weapon is never used again is protecting freedom," Sora replied. "Sir, do you ever regret using it?" Hyunwoo looked at the control interface, remembering the moment he gave the order to fire. 20,000 lives ended in an instant. Sometimes he still saw their faces in his dreams, even though he had never known any of them personally. "Every day," he said quietly, "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that the Council forced us to that choice. I regret every death in that war on every side. But I do not regret saving humanity from extinction. I do not regret ending a system that had oppressed species for centuries. Do you think we will ever have to use it again?"